Well, hello, everybody. And again, welcome back to Radio Entrepreneurs. My name is Jeffrey Davis. Again, I'm the host of Radio Entrepreneurs, also the founder and CEO of MAGE LLC, right there on the bottom side of my picture, and also associated with the Family Business Association, also up there. Our next guest, we took a little bit of time kind of reminiscing to some degree before we got on. Judy Heft, founder and CEO of Judy Heft and Associates. Welcome, Judy.
Thank you. Great to be here, Jeffrey.
Great. Why don't you tell us about Judith Heft and Associates?
Well, okay. So I've been in business for 24 years, which I'm pretty excited about. Looking forward to not being in the COVID next year and having a big celebration. I started this business, really grew up in the family clothing business, like in Canada, what we were talking about. My mom had started a business and I grew up there and learned how to be a businesswoman. And then when the retail economy was changing, I was trying to figure out what can I do. I didn't want to work retail for anybody else. And so I started this business, took my backroom knowledge of bookkeeping and turned it into a business. Started out working with some small businesses. And then when things changed, I was working at a hedge fund actually. And then somebody came into me and said, can you work with my parents? They're overwhelmed. They're not paying their bills. They have plenty of money. They're just forgetting. They're in their 80s. And I said, sure. And I went over and I met with them. And I found that I really like working with individuals, and that's how we started. So what we do now is bookkeeping and bill pay for highly successful individuals. So we approach running a household like running a small business, and we track everything for them. We track their expenses, we keep an eye on the inflows into their accounts, we track all their credit card activity, and then we can run some nice clean reports for them so they know what's going on, so that they can plan.
You know, I think that that's important, and I've seen that on both sides of my family. You know, when you invest in building a life around independence and you have accumulated some assets to be independent, to lose your independence at an older age is really a problem. I noticed my mother, refused to leave her home and always had a bookkeeper. My mother-in-law, lucky enough, I had my wife who managed a family office for her mother. But both sides of the family, the maternal sides, were extraordinarily independent and powerful women who refused to give up that independence. And only through proper support are you able to do that. And you also, nowadays, you don't want to put that burden on the family. And
Very
so,
true. That's
as someone who does do work with family businesses, I think that's an important part to sort of have you explain, because just a lot of families want to put that burden on the children. And I don't think that's a good place to go either. All it does is create conflict and problems.
Especially when there's two different children living in two different areas and they can end up hating each other. And I've seen so much of that. The more money, the more animosity is built. So I started this business working with the seniors, like I mentioned, and then realized that there was a real need for younger clients that really need our services, clients that have multiple properties, they're traveling, used to be traveling pre-COVID. We always have to say that now, I guess. They're traveling or they're busy. They have kids in different schools, colleges, private schools, and they want someone to track their expenses for them so they know what their spend is. It doesn't really matter how much money you have. You really need to know what you're spending. We also work with a lot of recently divorced and widowed individuals. Usually it's the woman who left everything to the husband. They weren't that independent and they were just, they had no clue. They don't know their user IDs, they don't know their passwords, and you need someone to help them with that. Usually they're good at swiping credit cards, but they're not really good at, figuring out what they need. And that's really important too, because if you're doing your estate plan, if you're working with your estate attorney, you need to know what your expenses are so you can plan for your future. You need to know your income and your expenses. If you're contemplating a divorce, you have to fill out that detailed financial affidavit. Usually they want to know your weekly spend, and most people honestly don't have a clue. They just really, I think especially today, Jeff, it's so easy because we're swiping credit cards all day long and we're using Apple Pay and we're not paying attention to what we're spending. It's just so easy to lose track of that. Things come on automatic and we don't pay attention to them. So that's what we help our clients do.
So Judith, do you do all the work yourself, or at this point of your career, do you have staff as well?
No, I have a staff. I have 7 people that work for me. I have 3 bookkeepers, and actually, no, I have 4 now. We just hired someone else 2 weeks ago. And so everybody has their own account manager, and they work on every client, but we're very transparent. We have a lot of camaraderie, and we use programs where if someone's out sick or they're on vacation, anybody can go in there and see what needs to be done and figure out what needs to be done. So if a client calls us and says, or emails and says, what did I spend on my landscaping last year for this particular property? If that person that's their account manager is in there, someone else can just run a quick report for them. So it's a good team. It's teamwork.
Is your field a very competitive field?
It's starting to get a little bit more competitive. There's starting to be more people doing this. I think as the need arises, especially with the senior older population, a lot of people just concentrate on seniors. They'll go to their house and write checks for them. We don't do that. We do the work in our office. So it is growing. It's definitely a growth field.
And what are the greatest resistors to hiring you that you find when you're talking to people?
That's a great question, Jeff. I think it's confidentiality. It's trust. Those are the big ones. Trust. You know, if usually our clients are coming from our referral sources. So if I'm getting a client referred to me from their attorney, their CPA, their wealth advisor, usually that doesn't come into play. But, you know, if someone comes on our website, they want to know if we have the right insurance. They want references. They want to know what's going on. And rightly so, they should know what's going on. And even sometimes if they're getting referred by an attorney, they still want to, you know what kind of insurance and, you know, references we have. We're happy to do that. But those are some of the fears.
You know, what I've seen, and I had that experience too, you know, my mother was in Montreal, and the rest of us who were, you know, having contact were not in Montreal. And there was always the worry that the bookkeeper who was dealing directly with my mother or with the parent cannot be trusted. You must see that a lot from children.
I do see that a lot. And actually I see a lot where I've been brought into cases where the caregivers take advantage. For instance, if it's an elderly woman or man and the caregiver is the only person that they're interacting with, the children might live far away in another state, or they're just busy running their own lives. That person is able to see their checkbook. Sometimes they're even writing the checks for them, and people leave things around, and then they have a sense of entitlement sometimes, and they weasel their way in so that they know what's going on. And I've seen a lot of caregivers connive their way into people's wills and, you know, get them to give them generous gifts. So I've seen a lot of elder financial abuse too. That's really something to be careful of.
You know, this is a great topic, and I'd love it if you came back with some cases that we could talk about, because it's just ripe with baby boomers now getting old. Not getting old, some of them are very old already. And, you know, I have a birthday in my family, not me today, of a sibling who's in their 70s. And, you know, so I guess that's pretty old. So, you know, for some people, not for me. I mean, I'm looking forward to that. But if somebody was looking for you, Judy, at Judith Heft and Associates, how would they find you?
So our website is judithheft.com, or they can email me at info@judithheft.com, or they can call us directly at 203-978-1858. Those are really the best ways to reach out to us. We're always available. There's a contact us form on the website too, where they can send an email and reach out, and we'll get back to them immediately. We're always happy to give a free consultation or help anybody. If anybody has any questions, we're here to answer them. We like to help our people.
No, we really appreciate it. And I liked doing a little reminiscing before the show. Bring me back to my childhood. And I remind everybody that we've been speaking with Judith Heft. My name is Jeffrey Davis, and this is Radio Entrepreneurs.